Well, hello. How are you? I am Pamela Furr, in for Brian Wilson, who is off this entire week. He's roasting in the sun somewhere. Has he told people where he's going on his vacation? Okay, where? Because I don't know.
He is going to New Mexico.
Oh, it's hot in New Mexico.
Yeah, but he's going to the mountainous region of New Mexico, so it's
where
supposed
it's
to be
less hot.
Very nice, actually.
Is snow-covered mountains in New Mexico?
Some
I don't
of it.
know.
I don't know about this time of year, but
No, Santa Fe is like 7,900 feet above sea level. Hey, Pamela.
That sounds
by the
pretty
way.
high.
Sorry, I just
All right,
pointed
so
in here.
I actually asked Matt Murphy to stick around for a few minutes. One, I haven't seen him in a while. I've been in Texas roasting. I've been in the first circle of hell roast. It was so hot where I was in Texas.
How hot was it?
It was, well, I don't have a joke there, but it was really hot. my hair like caught on fire. It was really hot.
I think I told you when we were talking when you were at the border, my grandpa used to say that this might not be hell, but hell's got to be right around the corner.
Right around the corner. Yeah, this is the lobby of hell. But anyway, so I asked Matt to stay just to hang out for a minute and let's visit. Here's my first question. What is your problem with fireworks?
They suck.
All right, so were you never a child and you enjoyed all
Yes,
the
I was a child, but
boom
then I grew up and cast away childish things. And see, Pamela's laughing because she knows me. And she's like, yeah, that's you, buddy.
That's you, all right, sure.
For those who didn't hear.
Yeah, fireworks suck. Well, have you...
But look, did you notice, see, there's the little firework, there's all the people.
Yeah, it doesn't... He's holding a sign for those listening on what we call traditional radio.
Uh-huh.
He's holding up a sign that says fireworks suck, and then he drew these
Little
stars
people.
that are supposed to be fireworks, I guess. They don't spell anything.
People, and it says, prove me wrong.
Now, I will say this. Now, have you experienced Nashville on the 4th of July in our big 4th spectacular?
Are you asking me if I've gone to the downtown Nashville fireworks show?
Correct.
No.
Okay.
But I've seen fireworks, and I know what they do.
They're not all the same.
They most certainly are.
And it's not the same experience.
Crowd, a huge crowd with a lot of drunks in it.
And smelly. Don't forget the smelly part. Because it's been hot all day. Because here's the thing. When you go to our fireworks celebration, if you're going downtown, you have to arrive around 10 a.m. or you're never going to find a parking spot at all.
Right.
So then you just hang downtown all day long and sweat and sweat and sweat. And then you drink beers in between the waters. And then you burp. And
Pamela's currently really making the case for this fireworks display.
No, it is a lot of fun, and the music's a lot of fun. But you can also watch it on television from downtown Nashville. And you can also stream it live, so you can see it from the comfort of your own home. But you have to go at least one time to say, I've seen it and I've done it.
The first way to make sure that I'm never going to do something is to say, I have to do something. I don't know what it is about me, but if somebody says I have to do it, I never do it.
It would be suggested that I think you would enjoy
you just
the people watching.
Pamela just identified something that I've now found would possibly be worse than going to watch fireworks, and that is watching fireworks on TV.
Television.
Let's take every little bit of good about watching fireworks
and then just throw it out the window.
And I mean, so I feel like I've seen all the professional fireworks I need to see. That's first answer to your question. The second is the amateurs that do it in the neighborhoods. I probably wouldn't have the issue I have with it if it was structured in such a way that everybody abided by shutting it down at 9 or 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night or whatever it is.
Yeah, come 1 a.m. and they all start up again.
Yes.
But by 1 a.m., these are the drunk ones doing it, and it may hit your car if you're in a neighborhood. I've had that happen. So I do understand. But in Davidson County, you're not just a PSA here, public service reminder. In Davidson County, you're not supposed to light any of those things.
Does that stop them?
Now, you can buy them at the county line if you so wish and bring them back into Davidson County if you so wish. But I think I also heard somebody report, don't call 911 either, because the police don't want to hear from you when you go, my neighbor's shooting off them fireworks, they've got other emergencies to attend to.
So Metro Nashville has passed a local ordinance that makes it impermissible to privately shoot off fireworks.
Correct.
In Davidson County.
You know, so that means Old Hickory. That means Bellevue. That means Antioch. That means part of Brentwood we call Brentioch. That means, all those little outlining areas of Davidson
desert.
County.
No fireworks will be shot off there, I'm sure.
No.
None are supposed to be. Yeah.
So, yeah. I feel
like,
you guys have been around. I mean, obviously, I'm the newbie, but I feel like there are far more fireworks sellers. I feel like the supply is way beyond what could possibly be the demand. I see these tents are everywhere.
Yeah, but come tomorrow, you won't be able to find anything. I don't think you will.
I don't know.
Right now,
there's a lot of them, Pamela.
Yeah, but right now they're hitting them hard. Right now at those tents, don't you think?
Well, I'm sure they are.
Tomorrow morning, man, they'll be hitting it hard.
Well, maybe, and then by Wednesday they'll all be packed up and gone. It is just very odd to me.
Ready to sell next year.
Yeah, well, they wait until what is it? Probably Labor Day. I think they may throw them out there.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's
right.
New
Labor
Year's,
Day.
of course.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
is that relatively new, or have they done it that way for a long time? The tents, the striped tents, the white, red and white, blue and white.
Mm-hmm. Forever.
It's just weird how different locations do it differently.
Alabama doesn't do it that way?
There's all trailers. They would bring in these portable trailers and put a big sign on it that says Crazy Eddie's Fireworks or whatever.
But they have permanent fireworks stores in Alabama, in the place where I grew up.
I don't think we have that, do we?
No, not as far as I know.
Yeah. So I mean that's the difference, I suppose.
What if I want to buy fireworks in February?
Yeah, or October.
What do I do?
You got to go to Alabama. And then buy them from a little box store.
I know Alabama,
a true box.
The biggest fireworks places are on the Georgia line between Georgia and Alabama because I guess they're still illegal in Georgia.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, we always had to drive across the river to stock up.
I wonder who.
I just drive across Wilson County.
If you go over to Goodlettsville, there's Hee Haw Fireworks, I'm seeing.
Hee-haw.
Oh, yeah, I lived near. That's near the Grand Old RV Resort Convalescence Home at Batney Market.
In the ghetto.
In the ghetto, yeah. I mean, I know, and I never went into Hee-haw Fireworks because I feel like it just looked like the type of place you'd end up in a basement.
No, this is
I'm not saying anything.
Oh,
I mean, I'm just
where are you tonight?
In the cornfield.
God, I found... No, that's not right. Where are you tonight?
Why did you leave me here all alone?
I searched the world over and found out true love.
But you made
another and you were gone. All right.
There's people out there going,
what the hell
what
are they
am I listening to?
about?
All right. So, but let me just say this. So I told Chris this earlier. I've experienced when it was, I think I can say this radio station because they don't exist anymore, when it was Y107's fireworks, right? So it was downtown off one of the bridges, I think it was Shelby Street Bridge maybe or what have you, that we'd stand and we'd see it and it was wonderful. This was before Titan Stadium was anywhere near the river at all. So that was fun to see that and experience all the drunk, sweaty people. That was fun. I was young. I enjoyed it. Then I had an opportunity 10 years ago to experience it from a rooftop on 2nd Avenue. A friend of mine owns one of those buildings down there. And so to see it on the rooftop looking over the river with the fireworks and ash actually falling into your hair from that is also a pretty great experience. But to see them right over Titan Stadium was pretty cool. And then I had an experience in a pontoon boat, either last year or the year before, I can't remember, on Old Hickory Lake there in Hendersonville. I was on a boat, and when you're right in the middle of the lake, then you get to see the displays from Lebanon, from Mount Juliet, because you can see it all around. You're surrounded by. So that was kind of cool to see the neighborhood fireworks displays on a boat. Other than that, you're not going to find me downtown. You're not going to find me outside in this heat. You're not going to find me doing any of that stuff tomorrow. If you want to go. But I don't think fireworks suck. I think the heat sucks. So I'm not going to be down there.
So I will say that one of the coolest memories that I have happened on July 4th, and it involves fireworks. Erica and I were in Chicago, and we were trying to get to the Navy Pier where they set off the annual fireworks.
Yeah.
In Chicago, and we wanted to get, and it's lucky that we did not, otherwise we'd have been in a sea of humanity, but we were trying to get to the John Hancock building. So if you go up to the observation deck of the John Hancock Building, it's one of the perfect places to watch the fireworks. Well, we missed it. We were late.
Oh.
Everybody was coming down, and we were going up. So it ended up, we were one of the few people at the observation deck of the John Hancock Building. And what happened, the Navy Pier fireworks were done, but you can see everywhere in Chicago.
Yeah.
And so all of these neighborhoods were setting off
Yeah.
fireworks. And so we were watching fireworks, but the bursts were below us.
Yeah. Oh, that's even cooler.
And you could see them
From
as
above.
far as the eye could see. You could see these little pops and bursts. Now, that was pretty cool.
That's cool. That is cool. And that was probably before you thought, oh, let's take a picture. You actually enjoyed it
pictures,
instead of taking. All right. This is my pet peeve. People who want to take photos with their cameras of the fireworks because none of them are good. Let me say this out loud one more time, guys. For any of you who want to videotape your fireworks, it's terrible footage.
Doesn't look good.
No one can do it properly. It's awful. So stop posting that crap.
Not to mention, it's the same stuff that the person actually saw in live with their own eyes. In some form or fashion,
Right.
They don't need
They've
your
already
video.
seen it because you're all friends, so you're going to be probably at the same event.
Yeah.
I don't want to see all that in my feed.
I mean,
so
taking a
that's gonna
picture of
happen.
fireworks, it's similar to going to the Great Smoky Mountains and taking a picture of the Great Smoky Mountains and thinking that the picture is going to anywhere near approximate what you're actually viewing with your own eyes.
Right.
Just look at it.
Exactly.
at it.
Just enjoy it, be in the moment. All right, 2 more minutes before we have to take a break, right? Can I have time here? I have one more question for
You're
you
in control, Pamela.
before you go.
Yes, I almost killed myself with a Roman candle. But anyway, go ahead.
That sounds like it's a story.
So, real quick, at the beach, can I do it?
Yeah.
At the beach, I'm not that so in my
your
defense,
youth?
in my defense, the only firework that you light with the fuse facing away from you.
I knew it.
This is true. There was some alcohol involved. So we bought
No.
fireworks. We went to the beach. You're not supposed to set them off at the beach.
Right,
We're going
right.
to do it anyway. And I get out the Roman candle and I light the Roman candle with the fuse facing toward me. And all I remember is that people started. I was still
Were
holding.
they like,
No, people started yelling. And I wasn't really sure why people were yelling. And all I knew is that I wanted to keep on my fingers. So I threw everything to the ground and ran. Anyway, that's my story. Go ahead. I'm
that's
sorry.
Pretty funny. Changing the subject. What's this about? There's now truly a pickleball challenge. Like, for real, y'all aren't just smack talking. You're actually going to be playing pickleball, and you're actually going to be raising money for a charity.
Yes, that's the goal. I did not talk about it on today's show because I didn't know where we were on it.
Oh, oops.
But no, Mandis, and I was corrected on this, that originally Mandis wanted us to be partners, which I think this works out because I don't want any part of that. But now we're challenging one another to a pickleball. And he's like putting out videos where he's walking in the heat and saying he's coming after me and all this kind of stuff. And
So he's taking this really seriously.
he is now a member of the Mount Juliet Pickleball Association on Facebook, which I'm a member of as well, I might add.
So wait a minute, you're part of a Facebook group, but you guys aren't actually. You've
No,
never played pickleball before.
I think I'm wondering if I should not do this because I have played. I mean, I've played tennis. I've played around at it. I've played ping pong. I mean, I understand the concept
so this is
of
like
a racket sport.
Ping pong.
I was a
ground?
badminton master. I might add
A what?
a badminton. There's an N in it. Badminton.
Is there an N in it?
Yes, it's MINTON. It's badminton.
It's badminton.
Just look it up.
That's good.
It's
Like
badminton.
There is
Is there not an
There
N?
is an
There is
N.
an
There is
N.
an N.
Where the
Is it
hell did the N
silent?
come
But it's
from?
still badminton.
It's badminton.
It's silent though, isn't it?
It's you can do what you want to do, but I pronounce the letters. I believe that it's salmon. I don't believe I believe it's salve. I don't I pronounce those unspoken letters.
That sounds good, Matt.
On that note, we have to take a break. It is 3:21. I'm Pamela Furr, in for Brian Wilson on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
A manhunt continuing in Baltimore after a mass shooting. How Nashville scores amongst other cities when it comes to starting a career, plus some news out of Russia. Those stories and more coming up at 3:30. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ooh, I like it. It is. I was going to go, is this patriotic? Oh, yeah, it is.
Kinda.
So we're going to kind of do, patriotic music on this Monday. I like this. Makes you want to dance. All right. Well, I'm glad that you're here. We hung out with Matt Murphy for just a little bit because this feels more like a Friday, doesn't it? Because we're going to be off tomorrow.
Yeah, what a weird. I couldn't think of the last time we had a holiday in the middle of the week.
It's been a while.
So I don't really know how to treat it. I
Yeah,
got to work
unless
today.
it was like a Christmas Eve that would have been like a Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah. But having to work on Monday and then off Tuesday and then back Wednesday.
And then back, yeah. So probably a lot of people are taking vacations during this time,
Yep.
I would think. But yeah, for me, it feels like a Friday. So it's a little casual for me. I just have to be honest with you. But we do have some things to discuss today. One of them, I have to share with you my trip to the border. I have to tell you what I experienced. I have to tell you what I saw for myself. And as we are embarking on this 4th of July, I will tell you this. I've never felt more inspired by being an American than I do now, and blessed that I can say I am an American and I was born here, born free, all of that after seeing some things that I saw at the border. We certainly have a lot of problems in this country with immigration, with illegal immigration, with the fentanyl coming through at the border, with human trafficking that starts at the border. All of that. We have all of those problems. It's true. But I would rather be here with all of these problems as a free American as we continue to work on being a more perfect union than I would any place else in this world. And that is the truth. That is the truth. After talking to people there at the border, migrants who work here in this country legally, Americans who were born in Mexico, but they have become citizens since, and what they have to say about what's happening at the border. I mean, all of these things I'm going to share with you, but I can tell you again that I am proud. Oh, I'm going to quote this song and I might tear up. I'm going to quote it. I hope it doesn't sound cheesy. I'm proud to be an American where at least I know I'm free. With all the problems, at least I'm free. I'm free to be everything that I want to be. I'm free to strive to be the best. The ceilings that have been there in the past for me as a female are pretty much, for the most part, obliterated. For Sister Pamela as a Christian, I would rather be here in America than any place else in this world. Even if I were not a Christian, I would rather be here being not a Christian. Because in this country, I don't have to be. I'm free to worship who, what, when, where, as often as I want to in this country. And if I don't want to worship anything or anybody at all, I don't have to. Because that is America. If I want to work, I can work. If I don't want to work, I don't have to work. And I can also be poor and live in a tent out on the side of the road or under a tree. I can do that in this country. All those things. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. I'm Pamela Furr. This is The Drive with Brian Wilson on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 3:30. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 90 degrees, another sunny, hot day here in Nashville. And crews have been working all day to get rid of some of those power outages around. Those storms left a few days ago, down from 40,000 to under 1,000, around 900 people right now in Nashville without power. Traffic and weather coming up. The manhunt continues in Baltimore for the gunman behind a mass shooting involving 30 victims, mostly teenagers, at a holiday weekend block party. Andy Field brings the latest.
Of the 28 residents shot and wounded, 4 are still in critical condition. 2 others killed. City's mayor, Brandon Scott, says they want someone who saw or knows the shooters to come forward.
So that we can bring those who are recklessly carrying out acts of violence like this to justice.
Baltimore offering an up to $28,000 reward to help police find and capture the shooters.
And here in Tennessee, News 2 did a report based off of data from Bankrate that's looking at the best U.S. cities to start a new career in. The factors into the study were GDP per capita, year-over-year job growth, cost of living, and more. Nashville came in at number 5. Austin, Texas was number 1, with Seattle, Salt Lake City, and Raleigh, North Carolina filling in the gaps in between. Memphis came in at number 47, one of the 5 worst metro areas to start a career. And the U.S. ambassador to Moscow was granted jailhouse access to Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gerskovich. Appeals continue for the reporter's release from a Russian prison. Faith Abube brings us more from Washington.
It's the second time U.S. Ambassador Lynn Tracy has met with journalist Evan Gerskovich since his arrest in Russia earlier this year. The two met at the prison in Moscow where Gerskovich is being held. The 31-year-old journalist was arrested back in March on espionage charges while working in Russia. His employer, the Wall Street Journal, maintains Gerskovich is being wrongfully detained. Appeals for his release have failed after a Moscow court ruled last month that Gerskovich must remain in custody until at least August 30th.
And that is the latest news. Weather and traffic are next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
That's right. An American girl here. I'm Pamela Furr in for Brian Wilson on The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Glad to have you on board. 615-737-9986 is our phone number. It's also our super text line. You can super text us there as well. Now, we do have Kenny on the line. I'm going to go ahead and take this call before we get into some serious discussion here. Kenny is on the line who wants to talk about fireworks. I guess Matt Murphy was in here earlier, and we were talking about fireworks stands and that sort of thing. Hey, Kenny.
Hey, I just thought I'd give you some information.
All right.
If you get on Murfreesboro Road and drive south or Highway 41, when you cross the county line from Davidson to Rutherford, you'll run into B&B Fireworks.
B&B Fireworks.
They've probably been there since the 40s because when I was a kid in the 50s growing up in Nashville, you couldn't buy fireworks in Nashville.
Right.
That's where we go, is Laverne, to buy.
Gotcha.
It was Perks Fireworks then. Their building is a liquor store now, and right across the street next to the new multi-pump gas station they built for electric cars is B&B Fireworks, probably a 20,000 square foot building.
Holy smokes.
And I would say that most of the people around here with fireworks stands buy them from B&B.
Oh.
And they're open all year long.
Gotcha. All right. Well, this is good to know. Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate it. Glad you're listening. Have a good day. Have a happy 4th. One thing that stood out to what he just said is that it's across the street from the liquor store. So you can buy your fireworks
2 for 1.
and your liquor all in one stop. I love it. All right. Now, I don't know if any of you have had an opportunity to head for the border, as they say. And I was able to do that last week. Americans for Prosperity Foundation actually took a bunch of lawmakers from Tennessee down there, some other media people. I was one of them. There were several media people who went down to McAllen, Texas. And it was an interesting experience for me. I've only been to Texas a handful of times, and most of it was just in and out of Dallas Airport, to my other destination. I did sing at a wedding one time in Clute, Texas, a little town called Clute, Texas. And what I remember about that wedding and singing at that event, our mosquitoes are, the big mosquitoes with the big old legs, and you know what I mean, just kind of flying around, and you just swat it. In Clute, Texas, the smallest, teeniest mosquitoes that will eat you through your clothes. That's what I remember about Clute, Texas. It was awful. The wedding was great, if the people that I sang for are listening right now, because they do live in Nashville now. But those mosquitoes, I will never forget that as long as I live. This was back in the day when girls actually wore pantyhose. Yes, I'm that old. And it would it would bite you through your pantyhose.
That small. Wow.
Yeah, teeny little
like
suckers.
gnat sized.
Yes, very much so. But they were mosquitoes, so I hated that. But anyway, that's my only experience really with Texas, and so obviously I know that it's extremely hot in Texas during the summer. So it was extremely hot there in McAllen, Texas. What I pictured in my head as to what I would see, since it's a border town, I thought that I'd land in Texas, get off the plane, and at every nook and cranny, you'd see an illegal immigrant standing there waiting for his next bus ride or whatever, you know what I mean, with his backpack on the streets. As you've seen in the photos, after Title 42 ended, we did have this influx of migrants there at the border and people coming through our ports of entry and then no place to go, homeless, so they started busing them off to, Kamala Harris's house, to New York City, all these places, Chicago, California. So I just thought I would see an influx of just human bodies just everywhere. That's the stereotype in my head. And that actually was not the case, which actually surprised me. McAllen is a pretty cool town. You've got a mall just right off the airport, which somebody told me a few minutes ago that the cartels actually own that mall. It could be. I mean, because it was one of the nicest areas, but it was right there by the airport. You had a Dillard's. I don't know why that surprised me. I thought I would see run down little stores, but there's a Dillard's, there's your Belk's, there's all the normal stores at a mall. But get past that. We got on a tour bus, basically, and we started heading for the border. McAllen is a border town, but we actually wanted to see the walls. And so that was interesting to me because again, stereotype in my head, I thought that when Donald Trump became president, he was the first and only person that thought of putting up a border wall. And that's just not true. I don't know if you have that stereotype. You might. You have walls from different eras. You have George W. Bush walls from the time he was governor of Texas. Then you have George W. Bush walls from the time that he was president. So you've got state walls, and then you have federal walls. You have Governor Abbott walls, and then you have Trump walls. How can you tell the difference? I'm not joking. This is going to sound like a joke. Trump walls are huge. They're huge. So you may have, let's say, George W. Bush walls are 15 feet high. Trump walls are 30 feet high. I mean, and that's not a joke. Now, it's part of the technology. You have a new way of doing these walls where you can have up your 15 feet, but then you have an area that's flat so that, it's unclimbable. You can't climb it, right? Because it's flat. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I hope I'm painting this picture properly. So then we were able to go through the border to the other side of the wall. Now, we were still on American soil because the border wall isn't necessarily just at the true Mexican United States or Texas border. It's some inside of the U.S. Does that make sense? So you could go on the other side at different places. What was alarming to me, though, is that you'd have wall, and then no wall, just out of nowhere. And that would go for a mile. And then you're back to wall again. So you had these places where it seemed like it was just completely open. Now, there's terrain issues, where it is difficult to traverse. Is that the word I'm looking for? To get through that terrain. I mean, you're putting your life in your own hands when you go out there in these woods with these trees and the critters that are out there. You've got wild animals. I think we saw a wild boar at one point, you have different kinds of insects and spiders and just critters, right? And the heat, for gosh sakes, the heat. So it's not an easy trek if you're trying to get into this country illegally. I personally didn't see any illegals, but it was pointed out to us that they're there and they're hiding and they're waiting to get through when no one's looking. They're trying to figure it out. What also was alarming to me was the idea that the cartel is also just on the other side, and they're looking and they're watching and they're waiting. We went to a water reservoir. Remember, this is the Rio Grande area, and there's the Rio Grande River. And this water reservoir actually is the source of water for McAllen, Texas, Mission, Texas. I can go down the list of little towns there that it supplies water for. And you stand there and the divide between two pieces of earth is that reservoir or that river, the Rio Grande River. And you can see on the other side, and that over there is where the illegals try to get through. It was described to us that there have been many times where dead bodies are fished out of that water. Which is just amazing to me. And it's amazing to me to think that you have approximately, and I'm rounding, 19,000 Border Patrol agents. That seems like a lot, right? 19,000 Border Patrol agents. When you compare that to 50,000 50,000 New York City police officers, right? Just 50,000 for New York City alone. Compare that, where you've got Border Patrol agents trying to keep this country safe from people trying to get in here, whether it's for a better life or whether it's for smuggling in fentanyl, human trafficking purposes, terrorism, whatever the case may be. It's all happening at our southern border. And I think I told you, if you've been listening to me over the last 3 months, there's also some alarming evidence that you now have people gotaways, if you will, getting through the northern border now. So this is starting to be an even more serious problem. So when you compare 19,000 to 50,000 cops, 19,000 Border Patrol agents, that was alarming to me. And it makes me so angry to think we're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine to help them protect their border, so to speak, from the Russians. And yet we can't spend that money here to hire more patrol agents at our border. That's just alarming to me. It makes me angry. It makes me sick. But my question is, what do we do? There are so many things that were eye-opening to me. Do you realize how many jobs are there in McAllen and Mission, Texas, and other little towns that are manufacturing jobs, right? Whether it's car parts, whether it's computer parts, whatever the case may be, where Americans, for whatever reason, don't want to work. So you've got migrants who have visas coming across the border every day to go to work in McAllen, Texas, or to go to work in Mission, Texas. If we close the border, that cuts off them being able to work. That could damage our economy. So I feel very guilty that the last couple of months here, I have said, close the border, we'll figure it out. But you got to stop the bleeding. Well, you stop the bleeding, you also could end up killing the body. Does that make sense? Am I rushing with all of my little stories here? There's so much I saw, so much I experienced. Let me tell you about enjoying meeting some immigrants at Catholic Charities, and also saddened to see what I saw at Catholic Charities there in McAllen, Texas. It was a part of my trip. Americans for Prosperity Foundation and other Tennessee lawmakers, we all went and experienced this together. I've got more stories to tell, but I have to take a break here. In fact, I think I'm a little late. It's 3:52. I'm Pamela Furr in for Brian Wilson on WTN.
It's 4:01. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 90 degrees, another hot one today in Nashville. Your Independence Day tomorrow should be mostly clear with a chance of thunderstorms around firework time. Complete weather and traffic in just a few moments. Authorities in Baltimore today holding a briefing on the weekend's mass shooting at a block party, but giving little information on possible suspects and details of the incident, which left 2 teenagers dead, at least 28 people injured. Ike Kajaji tells us what we know about the victims' conditions.
There are currently 9 people from this incident still in the hospital. 3 of them are in critical condition. But this was a massive scene. 30 people ended up having gunshot wounds from this mass shooting incident, 2 of them unfortunately being fatalities. 9 people were taken to the hospital in ambulances at the scene, but police tell us that at least 20 people took themselves to the hospital. Those are the individuals who were fleeing the scene at the time and managed to find area hospitals.
And ABC News right now breaking down numbers that show a majority of Americans approve of the Supreme Court's landmark decisions on Friday.
A little more than half of Americans, 52%, say they approve of the High Court's decision to bar the use of affirmative action in college admissions, according to our new ABC News Ipsos poll. 32% say they disapprove of the ruling, a majority of Republicans and independents agreeing with the court, and 60% of white respondents, along with 58% of Asian respondents, also siding with the justices. Only 25% of black respondents agreeing with the decision.
Was Jay O'Brien reporting. And as for the court's decision Friday to strike down President Biden's student forgiveness plan, 45% of Americans said they supported that decision. 40% said they disapproved. Right now in Tennessee, the Metro Nashville Police Department reported that a 7-year-old girl was found unresponsive in a pool near a family member's home on Village Green Drive in the Hermitage area. Police said officers jumped into the water, pulled her from the pool, and began resuscitation efforts. However, the girl did not survive. According to Metro Police, the child walked away from the home around 5:40 a.m. Police said she went through a fence before attempting to swim in the pool. It was in the 8-foot deep end. Her family reported her missing around 6 a.m. on Sunday. And travel is going crazy. Never before have airports been as busy as they have been this long 4th of July weekend. All-time records have been set according to new data, and today, here's Alex Stone.
Airports aren't just busy, they're busier than ever before. The TSA says Friday beat an all-time record for travel. Security checkpoints had almost 2.9 million people going through them, beating the previous record set on the Sunday after Thanksgiving in 2019. And since Thursday, the TSA has screened almost 2.7 million people every day. Those are records. Demand for travel, and airlines say willingness to pay for premium travel to upgrade and use lounges is at a pace never before seen.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Good afternoon. It is 4:08. I am Pamela Furr in for Brian Wilson on The Drive. Glad you're with us today. Glad that you are an American. Yes, everybody happy about that?
That's right. Yeah.
God bless the USA and all that.
Woo.
All right. Well, I want to discuss that because I was able to see kind of firsthand folks who aren't Americans who are looking for a better way of life. Now, I must have misspoke because I'm getting a lot of super text messages saying what I said about work visas was wrong. I'm not really sure what it is you thought that I said was wrong, but let me just kind of restate what I saw, and maybe I just kind of flubbed up some words. So I spent last week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in McAllen, Texas. And you're going to hear me talk about this trip probably for a while because it changed my view on a couple of things. For instance, I have said, you find me a presidential candidate who will close the border immediately, like first day of his presidency, executive order, we're closed. We got to figure some things out. And until further notice, we're close it. And you find me that candidate, he gets my vote. I don't care if it's Trump. I don't care if it's DeSantis, which I think DeSantis has said he's going to declare a state of emergency for the country and deploy U.S. troops to the border when he or if he becomes president of the United States. And that sounds great on the surface, but I think you have to, now that I've been down there and now that I've spoken to different people, there are some really great questions that have to be asked. For instance, am I right about this? There are those who live in Mexico who have work visas, yes, who come across the border every day to work in America. They're in those border towns and then go back when they're done for the day. They live in Mexico but work in America, just right over the border. And then you have those who have work visas who come to this country and stay for a little bit. You know, whether it's in New York, whether it's in Nashville, whether it's whatever. But they have work visas so they can work someplace. And then when the visa expires, they go back to their home country, right? Isn't that how it works? So at any rate, what I saw in McAllen, Texas, were all these manufacturing companies, right? And so I asked the question, who works there? Are these jobs that Americans can do? And the answer was absolutely. But Americans aren't coming to McAllen, Texas to take these jobs. They are desperate for workers. So you have Mexicans who come across the border at the ports of entry, and I believe in that area, or at least along the Rio Grande, you've got 9 points of entry there in New Mexico, Texas, Arizona, 9 points of entry where people can get through, right, from Mexico. And so they come across, they work, they go back. All legal. You also have a lot of trade going on that comes and goes through those ports of entry. I didn't even think of that as I'm spouting off, got to close the border, got to close the border. Well, what about the exports that go from the U.S. to Mexico? Because we do have exports. They go through that port of entry. The same with products coming from Mexico. Avocados come from Mexico. There are oranges, believe it or not, Florida, that come from Mexico that come through that port of entry. So if we close the border, there goes your avocado market, there goes your orange market, there goes your export market, right? You're closing all that down. That's going to have an effect on this economy. If you have lots of jobs, but nobody wants to work them, that's going to have yet another devastating effect on our economy. If you have these manufacturing plants that are producing car parts, that are producing computer parts, etc. You don't want to send all that over to China or wherever, right? Don't we want them here in America? I would think that you do. So there's all of these problems, and that's just from the legal standpoint, not even talking about the illegal standpoint here. So you have to you have to put all of that into perspective. One thing I certainly learned there in McAllen, Texas, nobody has an answer. Nobody has an answer for a family that comes to the port of entry and they're seeking asylum and they don't have any place to go and they have traversed far, right? I think that's an old word, isn't it? An old school word, traverse. It's traveled, isn't it? I don't know why traverse is coming to me today. But anyway, you get the idea. So they've come from far away, South American countries, Mexico, whatever the case is. But they travel to get to America to find a better way of life. Some of them are running from the drug cartels. Some of them are running from whatever. And you have them seeking asylum. Well, at that point, they have temporary status to be here, but where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? What are they going to do? So you have charity organizations all around these border towns that can take so many a day. And when they are processed at the border, then they go to places like Catholic Charities and other charities, and they stay for 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, and figure out where they're going to go from there. Usually they have a sponsor in America, and if they don't have a sponsor, then where do they go? All of these people, there's a humanitarian side to all of this. That's the humanitarian side. What about the other side of it, where you have illegals that are getting across those open places and open spaces there at the border? How are you going to stop that? Well, you could stop that, I think, if you had more Border Patrol agents, or if you had them not doing as much paperwork and processing that they're doing, and have them actually boots on the ground. It's amazing to me. Now, let me tell you what I saw at Catholic Charities. I saw families who don't speak English with young children. I saw mothers with their young children. I saw, fathers with their young children. I saw full families, mother, father, and their children there at Catholic Charities. And it seemed I took pictures. I haven't posted those pictures because I don't know. I don't know their stories. They're young children. I don't know that I want to put their faces up, but they're laying on these pallets of blankets and pillows and getting, some sleep. And then you have them getting a first hot meal or a hot shower or an actual indoor bathroom, But these places are overwhelmed with people. So it's difficult because they're volunteer organizations to keep them clean. I saw some of the most disgusting, I'm just going to tell you, body stuff. Do I need to describe it anymore?
No,
okay, do you get the idea?
Yeah.
It was gross. It was gross. And I asked about it. Sister Pamela, she's a girl. She has to go to the bathroom, once every 30 minutes. I'm teasing, I'm exaggerating. But, you ladies understand sometimes when you got to go, you got to go. And I had to go. And so I walked into this restroom and I had to walk right back out. It was, I don't even know how to describe it. It was awful. Think of a porta potty, but indoors.
Oh.
It was awful. And so, needless to say, I didn't go. And so I asked somebody, because that's what I do, I ask questions. I asked somebody there at Catholic Charities, how can you let this place get this out of hand? And the answer was, would you like to volunteer? Because we're looking for volunteers. And actually, we were there to volunteer. There would have been no way I could have volunteered to clean that up. I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm getting a little nauseous even talking about it, right? I wouldn't have been able to do it. But anyway, that's the issue, is that they don't have enough volunteers to stay ahead of the game because they have so many people that come in and out of there. And so for me, I thought, well, how can you let these people be in these disgusting conditions. And the answer was, Pamela, I don't think you understand. This is heaven for them. They've been in worse situations. And that blew my mind. Where they were coming from, they've seen so much worse. And when you're traveling 100 miles from wherever you're from to get to the American border, do you think they're stopping at a restroom they're walking, right? I didn't even think. It's probably been a month since any of them have bathed or brushed their teeth. Or I have never thought of that. I have to be honest. In my mind, I'm thinking, get them out of here. They're illegal. They shouldn't be here in the first place. Well, there's a humanitarian side to this. These are people that are looking for a better life. We were born into that better life. You and I. Now I might cry. You and I were born into this better life. We are blessed and take it for granted, I think, all the time. I know I do. I'm going to point the finger straight at me. I know I take it for granted every day. These are people that I saw that were looking to have and live that better life, the American dream, the American way that they have heard about forever and a day. The only way they can find it is to walk 100 miles to get to this place. And in their minds, for some of them, this was heaven, where I thought it was awful. This was heaven. And at some point, the promise of freedom is right within their grasp with the right attorneys, the right organizations, all of the things. And who am I to say, well, you can't be here? You can't, I've got that better life, but you can't live that better life. I don't feel that way. I don't. Now, how can you sift out the bad actors from those who are truly wanting to live this American dream that you and I take for granted? How do you sift it? What's the answer? Because I am sure, I may not have seen it, but I'm sure somewhere infiltrated somewhere in all of this, there were people who are members of gangs. There are people who are members of drug cartels. There are people who do not wish to be a part of the American dream unless they're selling drugs to you so they can make their money. Or they may want to rape your children or steal that horse from that farm or what. How do you sift through that? How do you get through the coyotes, who are taking young girls from Mexico and other countries and bringing them across the border so that they can sell them into the human trafficking trade? How do you figure out who is who? How do you do all of that and still keep the American dream alive for those who may not have been born into it, but want it and should have it? I don't know. And I don't know that anybody truly has the best answer. So what do? I don't know. That's what I got out of the trip. I don't know. Well, tomorrow, I'm sorry, and we'll take a break here, but on Wednesday, we're going to talk to someone who is in charge of those Border Patrol agents, someone I have not spoken to before except for on this trip. He traveled with us and gave us a lot of insight from a Border Patrol perspective about keeping this country safe. So we're going to talk to him on Wednesday at 4:35. So mark that on your calendar. I think you're going to enjoy his perspective, and I'll ask those same questions that I just asked to you. What do we do? 422. Pamela Furr in for Brian Wilson on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Uprising violence in the Middle East. A local business here in Nashville takes a big hit from some thieves, and we'll also have today's money news. Those stories and more coming up 30 minutes after the hour, 4 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm not sure it gets any better than that right there, y'all.
That's what I was thinking. Love it.
Oh, yeah. How old? That has got to be, what, 40 years old? I don't know when he recorded that, but
I'd say it's probably 50, closer
40,
to 50.
50 years old, man. It does not get any better. Somebody was asking me this when I did a little radio hit. We call them radio hits. Somebody else on the radio wanted to hear about my trip to Texas. But the first question they asked me was, what is your favorite song to play on the 4th of July? Well, I mean, this one.
Yeah, same.
I mean, the national anthem, sure, but this one gives me greater chills than even the national anthem.
It's got so much feeling to it.
So much soul.
Yep.
Yeah. You knew that when he was singing this song, he believed every word of it. God bless America. Right? And this is a man that could have had every reason to be bitter, to be angry. I mean, Ray Charles, man. I mean, because of what had happened to him, lost his sight. And he didn't. In this country, even during the time of serious racial issues, where this was a time when he had to come through back doors to get into a building, he still sang a song like that. Think about that. Still sang a song like that, knowing that it was going to get better for him as a Black American as long as we continue to fight for those rights, right? And he sang that song. When I hear some African Americans today, Black men and Black women on ye old television, who keep talking about white supremacy and who keep talking about the Supreme Court and how it's just a bunch of white supremacists and Uncle Toms, they've said it, I didn't, up there on the Supreme Court who got rid of affirmative action. Remember, people like Ray Charles, who really lived the life of being discriminated against, could still sing God Bless America, right? Or America the Beautiful. I'm sorry, America the Beautiful. God shed his grace on thee. Chills. All right, more to come. It's 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thirty minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Now 91 degrees on Music Row. A chance of thunderstorms here tonight. Expected to be similar tomorrow with thunderstorms possible during firework time. Crews in the city have been working around the clock to get people's lights back on after harsh storms over the weekend knocked down trees and subsequently power lines. The number was around 40,000 people. That's now come down to just over 800 people with no power. A full forecast and the latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. The U.S. says it's monitoring the escalating violence in the Middle East following an Israeli military raid on a West Bank refugee camp. Faith Abube.
Protesters in Gaza taking to the streets, some burning tires as hundreds of Israeli troops filled the Jenin refugee camp. A spokesperson for the Biden National Security Council tells ABC News they've seen the reports and are monitoring the situation closely. The spokesperson also reiterating the administration's support for, quote, Israel's security and right to defend its people against Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and other terrorist groups. Asked about the reports that the Israeli Defense Forces informed the U.S. about its plans to go into Jenin without offering any specifics, the NSC did not immediately respond.
Crime in Tennessee News 2 says that around $10,000 worth of plants were stolen from a farm stand in Bellevue. It happened last night. when cameras caught both a man and a woman loading a multitude of plants in their vehicle. The local business, Fresh, has always operated with the honor system. Even if they aren't open, they'll keep the doors open and ask that if you take something, just leave the money there. Over to the Money News, Daria Albinger.
U.S. stock markets closed early Monday and will remain shut Tuesday for the July 4th holiday. Major indexes gained slightly in today's session. Tesla helped push the market up when the electric car maker released surging vehicle delivery numbers compared to last year. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen will be in China later this week, trying to thaw strained U.S.-China relations. She has said the two nations can and need to find a way to live together. Yellen's trip comes after Secretary of State Antony Blinken's stop in Beijing last month. Saudi Arabia is extending its previously announced production cut of 1 million barrels of oil a day through August. Russia is also cutting production by an additional 500,000 barrels. The two countries are trying to prop up prices. Elon Musk has put new limits on tweets in an attempt to ease the company's overloaded web infrastructure. The new curfews on his digital square could further drive away advertisers and customers.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather are on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Now I feel like the fireworks need to be going off in Nashville. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. All right. Happy 4th of July, everybody. I know it's the 3rd, but we're celebrating today because we're all off tomorrow.
That's true.
Speaking of which, inside baseball, Chris, at our next break, do not let me forget. That's all I'm going to say. Just go.
Okay.
Pam, I'm reminding you. And then,
All right.
Will that work?
All
But
right.
we're all off tomorrow, and then we'll, I guess some of us will be back on Wednesday. Brian won't. Brian is on vacation this week.
Yep.
He is in New Mexico. Did I get that right?
That's what he told us. Now, whether that's where he actually went.
I haven't seen any pictures posted either, I don't think, on socials. Then again, I've got a gazillion people that pop up in my feed. Maybe they're there. They just haven't popped up yet.
Yeah,
and then
I
if
haven't
it's
seen anything.
Twitter, I think I can only see 5 tweets a day now, now that they've got their new policy. Have you
is
heard
that a
about
thing?
this thing? Yeah. So on Twitter, are you on Twitter?
I have a Twitter account, but I never post anything on Twitter.
Ever.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I use it for news. Now, I do pay the $8 a month.
Really?
I do. And I'm going to tell you why. For the edit feature. Because I am
okay.
notorious for putting the wrong words up because I'm just going fast with the thumbs on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And the auto correct hits me, and I'll just post something, not look at it. And then, I don't know, 10 minutes later, I see it and I realize, well, that's the wrong word, or I spelled that wrong. That's just insane. And I'll try to fix it. And you can't on Twitter. You have to delete and start over.
That's just so stupid.
Unless you pay the $8 a month.
Okay.
So I'm using it
Wow.
as a business expense. Don't judge me. I'm using it as a business expense. Why not? So apparently, if I understand this correctly, if you don't pay for your account, you're limited. I don't have the exact number. I'm going to say you're limited to actually scrolling through, looking at about 100 tweets a day. And then if you have the blue check, then you can see 1,000 a day. I don't have those numbers right, but that's kind
They're
of
limiting you.
Yeah, they are limiting you.
So you can't just sit there and scroll all day long.
Scroll. And so
Wow.
I believe Elon Musk said it was part of trying to get rid of AI services that do data scraping. These are terms that go way over my head, y'all. I'm just going to be honest. So I guess AI is looking for certain information, and so he doesn't want AI doing that. He wants live human beings doing that. So that's why he's doing it. I guess, but it's caused some problems. For instance, let's say you use Twitter. I'm gonna give you the real world example. We love Nash severe weather, right? We love that Twitter.
Yep, I'm familiar.
Those guys are great. They're witty, they're funny, and they have some of the most accurate and up-to-date weather information of anybody in town. No offense to our meteorologists that we know and love. No names. So I am one of those. So when there's severe weather, that's where I go first, right? I want to see what they're posting. Well, not everybody has a blue check. And I pay for mine. I didn't get mine, honestly. So when you don't have a blue check, if you're suddenly getting all these weather alerts, and let's say you've scrolled first half of the day a lot, and now you're getting emergency alerts, you're limited at some point. So that happened to a lot of people. I believe it was Friday night into Saturday or Saturday night into Sunday here in Nashville who were getting throttled. They couldn't see these weather updates. And so they kept saying, watch us on YouTube TV, we're on you. But if you're not seeing that,
you wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know. And so for me, I mean, that's a public service that these guys are doing for their Twitter community. And this policy, although I guess I get I personally think he wants more people to sign up for the blue check, the Twitter Blue, the $8 a month. But he says it's to prevent this data mining or data scraping or whatever it's called. But this causes problems for people who who aren't really on there a lot. They're not posting a lot, but they certainly want to see emergency messages. Here's a for instance. During the Covenant shooting, we were updating our Twitter a lot. Well, what if this was important news information that needed to get to the masses? Look, radio is my jam. So I'm always going straight to news talk radio when there's an emergency. Because 9 times out of 10, okay, maybe these days 7 times out of 10, you're going to have a live body in there that can tell you what's going on. Other radio stations may not do that. You know how it goes. This is 2023. Sometimes a live body's not in there. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. So I go to my news talk. If there's no one on the air, if there's a syndicated show, if there's where do you go next? I hit the social media. And for people younger than me, they're going to social media first anyway. Right.
And I think Twitter is probably the first place of the social medias because it's the most
newsy,
immediate, get it out right now.
Right.
And you can update it quickly if you need to post more.
You can.
You can.
Yeah. That's where I go when I'm looking for, okay, what is Channel 4 saying? What's Channel 5 saying? Where I can see it all in one spot.
Yep.
You know, what is those Nash guys? So if you're throttling all that back in an emergency and see how and how can Twitter determine for my area what the emergency is? You can't. So I think this is a mistake. I did even call Ken today and say, has it caused any problems for us yet? And we haven't seen any. They may have taken the number up a little bit after all the complaints this weekend. But now you have even more people saying, you know, I'm going to find a different alternative to Twitter. When the blue came out, you had a lot of people saying that, and then they just stayed where they were. They just didn't subscribe. Well, now I'm seeing news people saying, no, I'm finding an alternative place. But I don't even know what the alternative places are anymore. Parler went by the wayside. I'm sorry, Mr. Trump, but that Truth Social just ain't for me. It's just not working for me. I'm on it, and I don't get it. Have you been on it?
I have never been on it.
It's not my scene, man. It's just weird. It's like the Wild Wild West. So I don't know what the alternatives are. You've got Facebook, but that's going by the way of grandma. I mean,
only the old people use the Facebook now.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like.
That's what the kids say.
Yeah. So Snapchat isn't a posting thing per se, is it?
I think that's like
It's now a grandma.
A P2P sort of thing. Like it's one person to another person. I don't think it's
not
public.
a posting place.
I don't think so.
And then I see, TikTok, but again, I still have yet to get, I don't know, TikTok. I'm feeling like grandma now having these discussions with you. So where do you go? I mean, there's LinkedIn. I see a lot of people post stuff on LinkedIn from time to time, but that to me just seems like the business professionals.
Right, more for professional, job-related stuff
kind
or
of
career-related.
Stuff, yeah.
I know there's a lot of people started talking about Mastodon after the whole Elon buying Twitter thing.
And
tell me about I think it's kind of a Twitter clone, if you will. It's I think it's modeled sort of after
Mastodon.
Twitter.
That seems like conquistador. That's what it feels like. Mastodon, right?
It's a woolly mammoth. Mastodon.
Okay. Well, I may have to check that out. I mean, but see, here's the thing. If not everybody goes to the same place, it's not going to serve its purpose. Now you've got so many out there that it's back to you don't know where to go. Somebody's got to stand out above the crowd, or it's just going to be, everybody's going to come back to Twitter. I think so. Even if you're threatening to leave, I don't know that anything's going to stick.
Yeah. If you go somewhere else and what you want to see isn't there, then what are you going to do? You're going to go back
to where you see what you want to see and saw what you want to saw. You know, all of that. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's crazy to me, but again, I'm all about public service. I mean, truthfully, I love entertainment about radio. I loved being a DJ when I was a baby. You know, all of that. But the truth is, radio is supposed to be a public service. Right? And that's what I have to wonder, Twitter is entertainment, but isn't it also public service?
I have to feel like Elon did not take that into consideration when he made this, or if he made the decision, whoever made the decision. I don't think they were thinking of that.
No, I think
They couldn't have been.
I think they were thinking about the $8 in the blue check. That's what I
Maybe.
Capitalism. Yay, that's what we're about in this country. America is all about capitalism. But come on, man. Let's think this through, because social media has become bigger, I think, than anybody ever thought it was going to be.
It's some people's only connection to the outside world.
Sure.
They don't watch TV.
Sure.
They don't listen to talk radio. They don't read newspapers.
No.
They don't,
They
social
read
media.
the Twitter headline
Yep.
or the Facebook headline, which is dangerous, yes, but that's where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And when you really, truly have information that needs to get out and you've been throttled, or you can't see it because thank you, mother, I've hit my limit. It's almost like, your parents are saying, I'm sorry, no more time on the telephone. Well, for me, it was the telephone. You've spent 2 hours on the phone, get off the phone and go play or whatever. That's what it feels like. Your mom is saying, get off social media. Your time is up. Go play. And I'm thinking, you're not the boss of me. All right, it is 4:50. I'm Pamela Furr on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. You often hear me talk about diversification in the investing process, but how do we diversify? Well, we look for things that move in dissimilar fashion historically. Some of those market areas might be really small companies or really large companies, or very growth-oriented companies or value-oriented companies. And one of the things that we find is that when we diversify between these various segments, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio because they don't move in tandem with each other historically. Now, we can do that in U.S. markets, we can do that in international markets, and in emerging markets. And when we can dampen that volatility, we can help get ourselves a little bit of a better outcome as far as knowing what we might likely have in the future, or how we can take income from our investment portfolio. Now, we also want to add fixed income or bonds to the mix as well. Now, if we know that we need to do this, what's the best way to do it? Well, one of the things that we often teach is this concept of market efficiency. This won the Nobel Prize in economics as well. And it's the idea that if I'm investing in, let's say, small value stocks, if we look at professional managers and their ability to say, hey, should I have this stock or that one, and picking companies or areas of the market, we find that they typically get lower returns than the market does on its own. They just add expense and they can add a lot of volatility. One of the things we want to avoid is anything that can hurt your returns and increase your risk in the investing process. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
Response to all of the big decisions made by the Supreme Court last week, a shooting at a Nashville motel, people arrested for throwing rocks onto the highway, and a movie gets banned in Vietnam, but I bet you can't guess which one it is. Those stories and more coming up at 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury right here, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
What movie has been banned from Vietnam?
It's probably something ridiculous.
Indiana Jones? Don't tell me yet. We got to listen at
Gotta
5
wait.
o'clock. All right. What else is out right now? What
Is it even a new movie? Can you tell us that? Is it actually a new movie? That's
New movie.
Okay.
That's all you get.
Then I think it's Indiana Jones. But why on earth would you ban Indiana Jones from Vietnam?
It'll probably make no sense to us to be like, what? Why?
Or maybe it's Cocaine Bear.
Get those guesses in. Couple more minutes.
What else is out there? See, I'm not even paying attention to what's out in the theater, although everybody's telling me go see Indiana Jones, that it's pretty great in the theater.
Yeah, I can't.
Maybe that's what I'll do tomorrow instead of going outside because it's so hot. Vietnam. All right, I'll have to think about that. Thank you, Matt Maury. All right, and when we come back, I want to tell you about parents who now believe that they have to change the way they tell kids about the birds and the bees because of the Supreme Court more or less overturning Roe versus Wade. That's coming up on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 91 degrees, another hot sunny day in Nashville. Some storms possible later on tonight. Got a complete weather forecast. The latest traffic coming up 5 minutes. Civil rights groups are reacting to the Supreme Court's decision on affirmative action by shining a spotlight on legacy admissions. Andy Field.
Civil rights groups now asking the Education Department to investigate how Harvard University gives preference to primarily white student applicants who are the children of alumni and donors, when the Supreme Court has said students of color can no longer get similar consideration. A recent National Bureau of Economic Research study found that nearly half of Harvard's white students were recruited athletes, faculty, or alumni children or related to donors.
And a poll done by ABC shows that 52% of Americans agree with the justice's decision to get rid of affirmative action. Right now in the Volunteer State, Channel 4 reports that police are trying to identify suspects connected to a shooting at a Nashville Days Inn motel. A 58-year-old employee is now in critical condition after being shot by a black man with a .45 caliber pistol. That man had long dreads and was wearing a white T-shirt. The 3 suspects left in a blue 4-door Hyundai. And over in Washington State, police say they've made an arrest in an ongoing activity that proved deadly in Colorado earlier this year. It's a mystery of what provokes the activity, though. Alex Stone.
In April, a 20-year-old Colorado woman was killed when a rock was thrown through her windshield while she was driving outside of Denver. A group of teens was arrested, and in recent weeks in the Seattle area, there have been similar cases of somebody throwing rocks at cars on freeways. Last week, a man was seen throwing rocks onto I-90, and witnesses say they had seen him doing it before. Nobody was caught. Then on Saturday, Washington State Patrol troopers say they arrested a 45-year-old man for allegedly throwing rocks at cars near the West Seattle freeway. Troopers say there's nothing connecting him to last week's cases.
A crash in Tennessee. A motorcyclist was killed in a South Nashville crash yesterday. The accident involving the motorcycle occurred on Nolensville Pike at Ludi Street. The motorcyclist died after crashing into the car, which Metro Nashville police say turned into the path of the motorcycle. The victim is said to be a 43-year-old, and police are now working to notify their family. Police arrested the driver of the car for driving without a license and not having insurance. Additional charges are possible. And some entertainment news. The latest foreign ban of a Hollywood movie. It's a little surprising. Here's Jason Nathanson.
Hollywood movies get banned overseas all the time, often for content that's sexual or political. But one country has a problem with Barbie?
Wow, this is the real world.
According to Reuters, Vietnam says it won't run the soaked-in pink toy-based film over a map. Apparently, at some point, an image is seen of a U-shaped 9-dash line used on Chinese maps to mark its claims over the South China Sea. Vietnam disputes the markings and says the film can't be shown because the image is offensive. No word about the controversy from the film's studio, Warner Brothers. Barbie hits U.S. theaters July 21st.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Good afternoon. It is 5:08. I'm Pamela Furr in for Brian Wilson on the drive. He's on vacation this week. I mean, all week, not just today and not just tomorrow, but the entire week. So I'll be with you for the rest of this afternoon and then back on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Thank you for allowing me to be with you on your drive home or your drive to the airport or riding in traffic. I hear there are some spots on the interstate that are kind of at a standstill. I think there may have even been a serious accident. Jay Harper is in the traffic center, and he'll keep you up to date on that as you're doing whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's going home or going to the airport, going out of town. He'll keep you up to date on the roads. So let's talk about sex. I should have actually had you do a theme song. What's that? Let's talk about sex, baby. Who did that? The Backstreet Boys or somebody like that.
Was it?
I don't know.
May have been.
You might have to Google that one.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe Dr. Ruth had a theme song.
Yeah. Does she?
I don't know.
Or George Michael, I want your sex. That's all I remember.
I'm not sure I'm comfortable with this conversation, Pamela.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable. Please don't turn me into HR.
Chris, if there's a hotkey at any point in this segment that you're welcome to play at any moment. I'll let you look at it, but just you know,
really?
Yeah, just at any moment, you know.
Okay.
What is it?
I don't know. You know, Pamela. You said it.
All right. Anyway, so parents of teens and preteens say now, and this is going to be an adult conversation, so I just want to pre-warn you. I'm not going to get graphic, but we are talking about sex. Parents of teens and preteens say it used to be that they only had to worry about explaining the mechanics of sex and pregnancy to their kids. But since the U.S. Supreme Court's Dobbs decision ended 50 years of so-called protected access to abortions in the U.S. last year, some families say these discussions now include details that sound straight out of a spy movie. Now, already, I mean, the article, this is coming from CNN. And yes, I am reading it verbatim, but I feel as if I need to. I feel as if I have to. Because, yes, it's true I don't have children, but this is kind of ridiculous to me. And I'll explain. Yes, these discussions that parents are now having include details that sound straight out of a spy movie, including how to rent out-of-state post office boxes. That's part of a sex conversation? Oh, yes, it is if they end up needing it for their abortion pills. How to use Wi-Fi in a public place and delete any personal details from phone apps that could track them. Because why? Because I don't think it's illegal for you to, if you're in Tennessee, you're pregnant, you want an abortion, it's not illegal for you to seek that abortion outside of the state of Tennessee. So I'm not really sure why you need, I think I'm right. I don't see why you have to delete things off your phone and you don't want them tracked. That doesn't make any sense to me. These parents say the shifting legal landscape around reproductive health care. Abortion is reproductive health care. At any rate, has also brought new worries and a sense of urgency to conversations and decisions about birth control that might have been more distant considerations before. Now, I haven't had a conversation about the birds and bees recently with my children. Oh, yeah, I don't have any children. I have had some discussions with teenage girls in the past who were friends of mine who felt more comfortable talking to me than they did their parents. But I can assure you, I never said, well, here's this burner phone. I mean, I'm sorry. Here's how you rent an out-of-state mailbox. My conversations, now they already knew about the birds and the bees. They were teenage girls. They already knew that. My conversations were more along the lines of love and how do you know and should you and that kind of thing. I don't want to judge. I don't want to tell you how to live your life. Chris, I'm certainly not going to ask you any personal questions about your kid or anything like that or conversations that you've had. But for me, my mother was old school, uptight a little bit. She would spell the word sex when she would have the conversations with us, right?
Wow. All right.
So, when she had the conversations with me and my sister, it truly was, this is how it's done. Don't ever do it. That was her conversation, right? So, obviously I believe that you should probably be a little bit more open to conversations. In discussions I've had with parents, I would venture to say, you teach them about the mechanics. This is how it works. This goes here, and then this happens, and a baby occurs. That's how the circle of life. Then you get into his hormones start raging into more specifics, I'm assuming. And you do mention, I would hope that you would mention birth control when you start having those kinds of conversations. But I don't know many people, I personally don't know many people who have the abortion conversation. Here, you can use a condom, or here's the name of a doctor who will perform. That just seems over the top. That's the last, especially if you believe that abortion is murder. If abortion is ending a life, which I think the majority of us listening do. I'm not going to sit here and say I was some angelic human. I'm a woman of a certain age. I'm not a virgin. I was also young when all of that happened. I knew about birth control, and thank God I did. Because I would have been way too young to have a child. But my parents don't ever do this, and in church, abstinence was taught. In my schools, I went to Christian schools. Abstinence was taught. It's better. You're better off. And I can tell you now, as a woman of a certain age, I wish I would have listened. But when your hormones are raging, your hearing goes away. You don't hear. You don't listen, right? You want to do what you want to do. Here are the stories. Christine, a mother in southeastern Wisconsin, said she felt shocked and sick after the Dobbs decision became official. She also sprang into action. CNN is not using Christine's last name because she teaches at a Catholic school and feared that sharing her story could put her job in jeopardy. CNN isn't using the names of her children to protect their privacy. 2 of Christine's children are living at home, a teenage son and a daughter who is in her early 20s and moved in with her parents to save money while she finishes her degree. Okay, that's fine. Christine sees Wisconsin as a purple state. It's purple. It's a little bit of blue, a little bit of red. What does that make? Purple. Saying that Wisconsin prides itself on its level-headedness. She says the horror of Dobbs was bad enough, but then a state law that had been on the books since the mid-1800s took effect, making it illegal to perform abortions except to save the life of a pregnant person. As a result, many providers have stopped offering terminations while legal challenges wind their way through the courts. I'm on Brian Wilson's show. I'm supposed to say wind, aren't I?
You are, yeah.
I apologize. I did not mean to be disrespectful. For Christine, as a parent, the biggest change since Dobbs is the feeling that she urgently needed to protect her kids. Like I would do to help keep a child from backing off a cliff. That's kind of where I feel it's at. She was a classroom teacher for 20 years, and she said, I've seen so many good kids make one bad choice that just changes their trajectory forever. I don't know, Christine. Maybe if you teach these children, you know what? One bad choice could change the trajectory of your life forever. Maybe if you go that route. So be wise. Abstinence first, and if you can't help yourself, there's ways to prevent this from happening that are 98% effective, if I'm not mistaken. You don't have to be pregnant. And if she's acting as if her child is in danger. Look, don't we also teach our children don't pull the trigger of a gun willy-nilly, because one mistake could change the trajectory of your life. Don't you, when you're teaching your child how to drive a car, be careful, because one mistake could change the trajectory of your life. I mean, I don't know if you'd do it that seriously. They'd be scared to death to drive a dang car. But I think they get the serious. Don't you teach your children the seriousness of being behind the wheel of a car? You do, don't? I mean, you do.
Yeah, you absolutely do. Wearing your seatbelt.
Wear that seatbelt.
Obeying the speed limits. Using turn signals.
Yeah, because one wrong move and it can change the trajectory of your life. So why wouldn't you teach that to your kid when it comes to pregnancy? I don't understand that. This article is insane to me. Christine realizes she needed to stress urgently the risks to her son and one of his friends. The friend, she said, was making bad choices. I did lay into him, she said, something she never would have done before the Supreme Court decision. She sat both boys down and told them things were different now. It's different now. The stakes for having sex are higher. I said, you guys basically have a job if you want to have sex. Wait, I said this wrong. I said, you guys basically have to have a job if you want to have sex these days. She told the boys that if they were having sex, they also need some savings in case they need to pay for their girlfriends to travel out of state to get an abortion. Oh, my gosh. Then I had to put, oh, my God. I don't know what to say to that. I mean, if you were saying you might have to have a job because if she gets pregnant, you're going to have a child that you're going to have to support. I could see that. That might scare them to death. But you're going to have a job because you may have to pay for that abortion out of state. There's more to this. The other side lives completely different than I do. I don't even understand that mentality. And I'm thanking Jesus every day that I was raised differently than that mindset. Thank God. Now, we can get into the faith-based stuff. You know, sex before marriage is wrong. I get all that, but not everybody's going to obey that. It's not a law, but not everybody's going to follow that morality path. So if that is the case, I'm not going to say, have that savings account just in case you need to go to New York City to have an abortion. I'm not going to do that. Here's some birth control, or I don't know, don't have sex. It's 5:22. I'm Pamela Furr on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Gunmen in Baltimore after shooting involving 30 victims still on the run. Tennessee election news and 4th of July festivities. I'll have details at 5:30. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Mac Morey. This is a good one.
It is. I'd forgotten about this one.
Freedom. Oh, I thought he held it out longer. Freedom. This was written right after 9/11. Paul McCartney.
Mm-hmm.
Chills. Yes. It is 5:27. So glad that you're here today in this free country. I am just even more thankful after my trip to Texas. Thankful to have been born here, to have been born free. Absolutely. All right. But I want to get back to this topic because people are yelling at their radio. I'm getting your super text messages. 615-737-9986 is the phone number. It's also the super text line. There's this mom that CNN has interviewed who's just freaking out, saying that she's having to have some serious discussions with her children about sex. You know, it was one thing to do the whole mechanical thing about sex, but now I have to teach them how to get an out-of-state post office box just in case they need their abortion pills mailed to them someplace else. I've got to teach them about burner phones so they won't be tracked in finding out where to get an abortion out of state. Instead of teaching their kids abstinence or here's what condoms look like, or here's where you can go, a doctor that can get you some birth control pills. None of those kind of conversations. Instead, hey kid, this is what this mother is teaching her son. You better have $2,000 saved up because guess what? Plan B doesn't always work. And condoms don't always work because you're going to have to go out of state and you're going to have to go there for 3 days. So unless you've got that, it would be best to make better choices. Christine said her son's friend, who she was also sitting down with and having these conversations about, her son's friend was shocked. Nobody's ever talked to him about that, she said. For her daughter, the issues and conversation were a little bit different. She's an adult. Her daughter's been on birth control since middle school. Now, it says for medical issues, which that happens too. I don't have to tell you why. If you don't know that, ask your mama. In November, when she needed to renew her implant in her arm that releases hormones continuously, the first provider she made an appointment with wouldn't do it. That's because of certain laws, certain rules. They thought she was still a minor, by the way, as a 23-year-old. So she had to jump through some hoops to say, hello, you're my doctor. I'm not I'm not a minor. I'll tell you more about this coming up. It's interesting how far people are taking this because the birth control that she was taking that's under her arm is not an abortion pill. It's not an abortion shot. It's not an abortion implant. So I'm not sure how in the world she is taking it this far. So let's investigate together when we come back. I'm Pamela Furr. Time for news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
5:31, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. The heat is here to stay, and so are the thunderstorms. A chance for storms every day this week. 91 degrees right now in Nashville. A complete forecast and the latest traffic report coming up in 5 minutes. The manhunt continues in Baltimore for the gunman behind a mass shooting involving 30 victims that were mostly teenagers at a holiday weekend block party. Andy Field
Of the 28 residents shot and wounded, 4 are still in critical condition. 2 others killed. City's Mayor Brandon Scott says they want someone who saw or knows the shooters to come forward.
So that we can bring those who are recklessly carrying out acts of violence like this to justice.
Baltimore offering an up to $28,000 reward to help police find and capture the shooters.
Officials say there were at least 2 or 3 weapons used in this shooting. Tennessee elections, the August 3rd municipal election is coming up, and this Wednesday is the deadline to register. You can apply in person or online in Tennessee by going to govotetn.gov and click the registration page. Early voting begins Friday, July 14th and ends Saturday, July 29th. And security plans are in place for New York City's 4th of July festivities. Here's Derek Dennis.
Streets will be shut down, crowds will be barricaded, and thousands of uniformed and plain-clothed NYPD officers will be on hand for the city's 4th of July fireworks. Acting Police Commissioner Edward Caban says there will be a heightened police presence.
There'll be much the public will see and much the public will not see.
That's because the city could be a target for terrorists, so officers are ready for anything. But Caban says it's important to note,
currently, there are no specific credible threats directed toward the July 4th fireworks or any other celebrations taking place.
He's asking the public if they see something, say something.
And here in Music City, 200,000 people are expected downtown for the Let Freedom Sing celebration. Lots of the parking areas for tomorrow are credit cards only. And that is the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
All right.
Thought we had to make this one good since we couldn't remember who sang this song.
We didn't remember. That tune popped in my head when I said we're going to spend this hour talking about sex. and I don't. Again, there's so many sex songs out there. I don't know why this popped in my head, but it did. And a lot of you super texters reminded me that I'm old. Because this was a 90s tune, right?
It was either late 80s or early 90s. Let's see. No, 1990.
1990, right there. Salt and Pepper.
Salt and Pepper.
So, all right.
Even Dan Mandis chimed in. That was Salt and Pepper, by the
way. Did he?
He did.
That is hilarious. All right, so we are talking about sex, but it's from the perspective of those who are panicking because now they believe they have to change the way the conversation is being had with their children. Now, again, I'm not a parent, and I know you're yelling at the radio going, then shut up. Well, I do have opinions. I have children that are in my life, even though they may not be my own. I know how I was taught. I think a lot of you walk in the similar shoes that I did. I don't understand the panic because Roe versus Wade or the Dobbs decision has more or less overturned Roe versus Wade. It gave the decision back to the states. So if you are a progressive parent, I'm really confused, though, why you would be panicked. What is happening is the left want you to believe that if we, the Republicans, the conservatives, are coming after your abortions, birth control is next. Because you have this story from CNN of mothers talking to daughters who are adults who say they're having a hard time getting their birth control. That, by the way, I don't buy. I don't believe that for a second. And as I read this story, I'll just tell you, if you were listening in the last segment, this daughter was 23 years old, but has been on birth control since middle school for health reasons, and that does happen. She had the little implant that goes into your arm. It needed to be changed. After a certain amount of time, you have to change up your birth control because it becomes ineffective, or for women, you run the risk if you're on the same kind for a certain amount of time, you run the risk of breast cancer. I mean, I can go on down the list. Look it up yourself. So she needed to change her birth control, and the one that she wanted, this particular doctor did not want to provide. And so she, the 23-year-old, says that the doctor was asking her all these questions about her sex life. Do you really think you need this? You are now 23. Let's go a different route for a while because your body can't handle, these hormones the same way that they did as 16. Let's change it up. But she took it as they're about to control my birth control. They're about to say, you can't have any birth control, and I am triggered. So she went to another doctor that gave her the prescription that she wanted. So I don't know why she got all bent out of shape. I guess it was to get the airtime on CNN. I don't know. But here's what's happening. They're trying to scare you. And what I don't understand is the mentality of abortions are birth control. Abortions are not birth control. Abortions are murder. Now, I have said this on other shows. I don't know that I've said it in the afternoon. So if you're new to what my opinions are, welcome, first of all. I never thought Roe versus Wade would be overturned. I didn't. I thought that we would have to piecemeal it. And I had helped behind the scenes trying to get some legislation passed here in the state of Tennessee, piecemealing it, giving fathers rights back to fathers who have said, I don't want you to have an abortion. This is also my child. And they have zero rights to be able to do that. But then God, as they say, had a different plan. And the Dobbs decision was handed down, which meant states could decide for themselves how they wanted to handle this very important issue. And so for the state of Tennessee, we passed our laws after Dobbs came down, or some of the laws that we had passed went into effect. I had to ask God to forgive me. My faith was not strong enough. I never thought it would happen. Now that it has happened, thank you, Jesus. There were other people stronger than me out there fighting for this, smarter than me out there fighting for this, smarter than you. Some others that have been fighting for a very long time to get this overturned. So now what are they doing? They're trying to convince women that they are after your reproductive rights. And it's a lie, they being us. That's a lie. As conservatives, I certainly don't want a bunch of unwelcomed pregnancies happening. Our welfare system is overwhelmed. Our Department of Children's Services overwhelmed. But I do know that there are ways and alternatives if your child ends up pregnant. Mercy Ministries comes to mind. Love this organization. Nancy Alcorn has been a part of this started this organization for a very long time. There are ways that and places that will help you if you are in a situation where there is an unwanted pregnancy. But let's talk about not getting to that point when we're talking to our children. It bothers me that there are women that are teaching their children to be very afraid, be afraid, be afraid. And you shouldn't. You don't have to be afraid. You can be grown up, teach abstinence, maybe teach those things about the bank account. Look, if you're going to make the adult decision to be sexually active, then here are the situations that could arise that could cause you problems. It will change the trajectory of your life. Yes, teach that. And teach what a condom is. Teach what abstinence is. Teach whatever, the birth control options that are out there. But you don't have to be afraid that someone's going to take your birth control away from you. Good grief. No one's working towards that on the Republican side. It's a lie. It's a lie. And for CNN to fall right into that narrative is just so offensive to me as a female. It is so offensive to me as a woman. God, how do I say this? God has given male and female, man and woman, the incredible ability to procreate. What an amazing miracle that is. What if we started teaching our children that to value the miracle and the life that is created when two people come together? Now you can, I'm going to say in love, whatever, in heat, whatever, whatever but it is a miracle that can happen the way that it does. Let's put value on that. Let's put value. And I think maybe perhaps if we teach our children the value of that could help in making the right decisions. I say that. I believed even at 16 that life was valuable. My But I love him, spoke much higher than that. I love him, Mama. But I did value life. I think maybe in our household, if my mom wouldn't have been, well, it's sex. If she hadn't have been, and don't do it, maybe perhaps we could have had a better and more productive conversations about it all. Regardless, to be fearful and to teach your kids how to buy burner phone. That to me is a little nuts. Or maybe I'm a little nuts, but that just seems a little over the top. All right, I'm done with this conversation, but I wanted to get all that out because it screamed at me that these are the things that real parents that you probably face every day and don't realize it. These are the kind of things that they're teaching your kids, to be afraid of Republicans because they're going to take your birth control, by God. They've already taken your abortion away. They're going to take your birth control next. And that's just a lie. A lie from the pits of hell. It is 5:50. I'm Pamela Furr in for Brian Wilson on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. You often hear me talk about diversification in the investing process, but how do we diversify? Well, we look for things that move in dissimilar fashion historically. Some of those market areas might be really small companies or really large companies, or very growth-oriented companies or value-oriented companies. One of the things that we find is that when we diversify between these various segments, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio because they don't move in tandem with each other historically. Now, we can do that in U.S. markets, we can do that in international markets, and in emerging markets. And when we can dampen that volatility, we can help get ourselves a little bit of a better outcome as far as knowing what we might likely have in the future or how we can take income from our investment portfolio. Now, we also want to add fixed income or bonds to the mix as well. Now, if we know that we need to do this, what's the best way to do it? Well, one of the things that we often teach is this concept of market efficiency. This won the Nobel Prize in economics as well. And it's the idea that if I'm investing in, let's say, small value stocks, if we look at professional managers and their ability to say, hey, should I have this stock or that one, and picking companies or areas of the market, we find that they typically get lower returns than the market does on its own. They just add expense and they can add a lot of volatility. One of the things we want to avoid is anything that can hurt your returns and increase your risk in the investing process. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
The shooters of over 30 victims in a Baltimore shooting are on the run. How Nashville stacks up against other cities when it comes to a place to start a career. And people are paying a lot to finance vehicles nowadays. I'll have details at 6. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I think they're paying a lot to finance their 4th of July cookout, too. I'm seeing where all the prices on everything, hamburgers up, buns up, ketchup up.
Bratwurst up. That's my favorite.
Ooh, yeah, brats. Did you bring any?
No.
Curses.
I'm sorry.
All right, Mac Morey. Meanwhile, I didn't realize so many people are still without power here in the Middle Tennessee area, or more specifically Nashville. So I'm so sorry about that. There are quite a few, but NES says they are working on it. I think now they've got it down to about 900 at this point, and it was way up there yesterday. So anyway, glad you've got your batteries on and you're listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN News next.
It is 6:01. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 93 degrees on Music Row. A chance of thunderstorms here tonight. Expected to be similar tomorrow. Thunderstorms possible during fireworks time. Crews in the city have been working around the clock to get people's lights back on. Harsh storms knock down trees and power lines as well. The number was around 40,000 people with no power. And now, according to NES, that number's gone down to just around under 800 people. Latest forecast and traffic report coming up in 5 minutes. A manhunt underway in Baltimore. Police searching for the people responsible for a mass shooting Sunday morning at a block party that killed 2 people, injured more than 24 others. Here's Rena Roy.
Police say 20-year-old Kylise Fagbemi and 18-year-old Aaliyah Gonzalez were killed and 28 others injured. 7 of them still hospitalized, 4 in critical condition.
Let's not forget that we are talking about human lives. The effects gun violence has on our community and trauma experienced by all friends, loved ones, and neighbors.
With the urgent manhunt still ongoing, officials urging people to be vigilant as 4th of July celebrations continue.
Right now in Tennessee, News 2 did a report based off of data from Bankrate looking at the best U.S. cities to start a new career. The factors into the study were GDP per capita, year-over job growth, cost of living, along with more. Nashville came in at number 5. Austin, Texas was number 1. Then Seattle, Salt Lake City, and Raleigh, North Carolina filled the gaps in between. Memphis came in at number 47, and that was one of the worst 5 metro areas to start a career. And over to some different data, ABC News breaking down numbers that show a majority of Americans approve of the Supreme Court's landmark decisions that were on Friday.
A little more than half of Americans, 52%, say they approve of the High Court's decision to bar the use of affirmative action in college admissions, according to our new ABC News Ipsos poll. 32% say they disapprove of the ruling, a majority of Republicans and independents agreeing with the court, and 60% of white respondents, along with 58% of Asian respondents, also siding with the justices. Only 25% of black respondents agreeing with the decision.
This is Jay O'Brien reporting, and as for the court's decision Friday to strike down President Biden's student forgiveness plan, 45% of Americans said they supported that decision. 40% said they disapproved. And a new consumer report raises the alarm over how much drivers are paying to finance new vehicles. Mike Dubusky has why picking up a new set of wheels is getting so pricey.
The average new car payment is as high as it's ever been, according to Edmunds. Jessica Caldwell, Edmunds' senior director of Insights, says they also found that a growing number of people are spending $1,000 or more on their monthly payments.
That share of people, it's over 17%. So that is pretty high, especially when you look at that number historically. Going back to 2019, it was about 4.3%.
Caldwell says automakers focus on larger, more luxurious vehicles, and rising interest rates are behind the increased prices.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Good afternoon. It is 6:07. I am Pamela Furr in for Brian Wilson on the drive. He's on vacation this week. Glad to have you on board. Chris Weber in the producer's booth. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
We've got Mac Morey over there in the newsroom. We have a theme song for Mac Morey because Mac and I work together in the mornings, or at least we have for the last couple of months. That's not going to happen too much longer, by the way. Anyway, do you know what his theme song is?
I do not.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie. That's Mac Morey. Yeah, very good. Is Mac's not in there, is he? Because I don't hear him laughing. So he missed his own theme song. Well, I'm glad that you're here, and I'm wondering what your activities will be tomorrow. First of all, if you're going downtown, let me just remind you that the pedestrian bridge, the Siegenthaler pedestrian bridge, it's going to be closed. And they say it's for safety reasons, of course. It starts tonight at 11 p.m. and then will be closed through 6 a.m. on July the 5th. That's because of all the fireworks, right? That will be coming from that area.
Very close.
So very, very, very close. So that's why it's going to be closed. And there's going to be all kinds of other road closures and whatnot downtown. So you might want to check it out. Visit musiccity.com. Really has been the best source of information for the downtown 4th of July celebration. So if you're wondering what to avoid or what you need to know if you're going downtown, it's all right there. Visit musiccity.com. All right. I mentioned this earlier on the show. I'll mention it here. I had a chance to go to the border, and I'm going to fill in for Brian all week long, and we're going to talk about border issues all week long and some things I've learned and talk to people that I've met down there and all of that. But the reason why I bring it up today is because one thing certainly hit home for me after getting a view at our southern border, getting to talk to migrants, getting to talk to workers, getting to talk to Border Patrol agents, getting to talk to lawmakers, all of that. One thing that hit home for me is I feel so blessed to be able to say I was born free. In fact, you don't have to play it yet, but Chris, if you'll find that for me.
Got it.
I feel so fortunate to have been born in this country, and I feel ashamed that I take it for granted. I felt that way, too, for a long time, that I took for granted everything that America offers right up until, I don't know, was it about 8:30, September the 11th, 2001. And then you're reminded about America and patriotism and freedom and what we fight for and how it can all be gone in 1 second with one plane flying into your building or coming crashing to the ground because of terrorism. I remember those days specifically. I lived through it. I was an adult. A lot of you lived through it as well. When I read the story, I feel very disappointed in how things have been playing out lately. There's a new poll that shows that a historically low number of U.S. adults describe themselves as extremely proud to be an American. According to Gallup, 39% of adults expressed extreme pride in the United States. 39%. Only 1 percentage point higher than 2022's record low number. The number was 4.4, just 4 points higher in 2021, 16 points higher when Gallup first asked the question in 2001, growing as high as 65 to 70% in the years following 9/11. So it took 9/11 for people to be reminded that they are American, they're free, and it's something to be proud of. Here's some other startling statistics. I think it's startling. A Fox News poll shows 48% of Americans think the nation's best days are behind us. That's 48% of Americans think the nation's best days are behind us. While 43% think the best days are ahead of us. Pessimism has risen when only 26% of Americans thought the best days were behind us back in 2012. So that's 11 years, and look at the difference in the numbers. That is so sad. I wish everybody could take a trip to the border. You know what I would encourage you to do? Seriously, if you get an opportunity, go volunteer with a church group or some sort of charity group that helps migrants or others there at the border. I think that will shake you. It certainly did me from a patriotism standpoint. I think I could safely say a little bit of patriotism was reignited. A little bit of the American spirit was reignited within me. I would hate to think that it would take another 9/11 to shake this country back into believing that America is good at its core, at its heart is good. That freedom is good. And we may have differences, but at our core, because we are Americans, things are good. We strive every day to be a more perfect union, yes. We're not perfect, but our intents are good, aren't they? We intend to be good. We intend to do things that are going to make us better as a people, as a country. There are those that will lie to you and say some recent decisions are bad for America, and that's just simply not true. According to Gallup, in addition to party identification, age appears to significantly affect Americans' national pride. 50% of U.S. adults aged 55 and older say they're extremely proud to be an American. 40% of those aged 35 to 54 and 18% of the 18 to 34-year-olds. So the younger you get, the less proud you are to be an American. Now, I could chalk some of that up to just youth. I mean, when I was an 18-year-old, I don't know that I had thought about it. You know what? I say that. That's wrong. When I was an 18-year-old, I was excited about being able to vote. I was excited that I got to vote. That was important to me. When the president of the United States would come on the television, that didn't matter what his party was, whether he was Republican or Democrat, it didn't matter. When he came on television, you stopped what you were doing and you paid attention because the president of the United States of America was speaking to you and you needed to listen. I felt like that was patriotism. So that was, I was young. Other than that, if somebody would have asked, are you extremely proud to be an American? I'd say, well, sure. And that's it. That's all I'd say. At 18, and then as I pay taxes and more taxes come out of my paycheck, I'm going, man, is this what it's like to be an American? No, I would say, is this what it's like to be an adult? 9/11 shook me like it did a lot of people. I don't know. How old is if you want to say, how old is your kid?
He's almost 16.
Wonder what if you were to ask him if you're extremely proud to be an American.
That's a good question. Might have to pose that question this weekend.
And it may just be, again, just youth. I don't know. Sure, I guess so. You know, that's probably how I would answer at 16.
Yep.
But when you get to the 20, see, I wish they had a 25 to 34-year-old category, because then I think it would be a little different. You know, once you're out of college, once you're able to figure out what you want to do in life. Although for some people, me, it took a little longer. There were some folks that discussed this on Fox and Friends, I guess, this morning. And host Rachel Campos Duffy, that's a new one on me. I don't know this Fox and Friends host. She said younger Americans are hearing the nation's founders as being denigrated in schools and colleges. Yeah. You've got people who are trying to teach our young people that the White House, you know, was built on the backs of slaves, which may or may not be true, but they're trying to paint it as those who wanted you to build the White House, they were nothing but racist. They were nothing but white supremacists. And that's just not true. You can't judge the past by today's eyes. Like, I can't judge 1776 with the eyes of a 2023 person, right? Because things were different. People looked at things differently. It wasn't just slavery that was an issue in this country years ago. Slavery was an issue in lots of countries many moons ago. There were a lot of white people in this country who didn't believe in slavery. And I would tell you this, too. There were a lot of white people in this country who didn't own slaves. And yet, we are being judged as the white person for participating in slavery, and that's just not right. You're being taught that our forefathers were very flawed, and all you're hearing is their flaws. You're even hearing theories that there's no basis in truth about. That's what they're teaching in school. And I think it's wrong. So that could be another reason why young people who are hearing all of this crap in school believe it and therefore look at this country as something to be ashamed of. And that's, I mean, you have to, if it weren't for mistakes of the past, would we be where we are today? Are we not successful? Is this not a successful country with flaws? Are you, as a human being, successful? Sure. Do you have flaws? Absolutely. We're the sum of all of our flaws and all of our successes, are we not, as humans? Therefore, the same goes for this country. We are the sum of our past and our now. And we've grown. But you can't throw away the past, or you wouldn't have gotten to this now. Am I speaking in circles?
I'm following you.
Okay. 60% of Republicans and 29% of Democrats express extreme pride in being American. 29% of Democrats are not extremely proud of being an American. Would you rather be a Cuban? I say spend a day in Mexico, the real Mexico, and tell me if you're proud to be an American. Who is the basketball player? Brittany Griner. Ask her today if she's proud to be an American after spending that time that she did in a prison. In a prison cell in a foreign country. Ask her today, is she proud to be an American? She wasn't before she left. She is now. 622, I'm Pamela Furr on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 6:27. I'm Pamela Furr. Thank you for being with us today. It is 4th of July Eve. Is that what we say? 4th Eve? It's July 3rd.
It's the 3rd, yeah.
And I don't know what your plans are for tomorrow, but I encourage you to take a minute and remember how blessed we are to be Americans. Here's something else I would encourage you to do. Now, maybe you want to do the cookout and maybe you want to do the fireworks and all of that. If you have not seen the mini series called John Adams, the book was written by David McCullough. And the miniseries stars, Paul,
Giamatti.
Thank you. Have you seen it?
I have not seen it.
It really is pretty spectacular. And it gives you an idea of truly how this country was founded and when they decided to break away from England. And I got to tell you, these were all representatives from different states. The 13, I said states. They weren't states at the time. They were colonies. And it depicts some of the emotion around the decisions. And I got to tell you, some of these representatives were very afraid. Look, back then, you decide you want to break away from the king and England, you are a dead man. You're dead. They will have the soldiers come after you, kill you. You're a marked person. This was not something that was decided willy-nilly. And there, again, a lot of emotion behind it. And I would certainly say John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, and of course, George Washington were the huge voices and their minds. How God used them is just unbelievable. And John Adams, in my opinion, this book certainly depicts how truly important he was to the freedom of this country. You would think that on Independence Day, the day that it was declared, I always had this vision in my head of all these people gathered and a celebration. We are breaking free. That is not necessarily the case. They made the statements, outside declaring our independence, and they all kind of looked at each other. If this book is true, like, okay, we've done it now. Now are the next steps. Now we're at war. And lives were changed forever. So if you're looking for a reason to be reminded what patriotism is about and what the July 4th holiday is about, watch that miniseries. It was produced by HBO. It's simply called John Adams. Laura Linney plays Abigail Adams. She does a fantastic job. It's very well done, and it is based on the book by David McCullough called John Adams. It's 6:30. I'm Pamela Furr on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Oh, yeah. Kid Rock. One of my favorite songs about freedom. I gotta let it play.
Got to, right?
Yeah. That's Kid Rock. That truly is one of my favorite songs. Every time I hear it, I'm up and down, screaming, hallelujah, yes. And I think it applies here. Here's some words. I mentioned this gentleman, one of our forefathers, in the last segment. I want to read, because I don't have his audio. I'm going to read to you from his speech. Sink or swim, live or die, survive or perish, I give my hand and my heart to this vote. This was a vote to declare independence from England. It is true indeed that in the beginning we aimed not at independence, but there's a divinity that shapes our ends. Why then should we defer the declaration? You and I indeed may rue it. We may not live to see the time when this declaration shall be made good. We may die. Why am I crying? I hate being a girl. Die colonists, die slaves, die it may be, ignominiously, and on the scaffold, be it so, be it so. If it be the pleasure of heaven that my country shall require the poor offering of my life, the victim shall be ready at the appointed hour of sacrifice, come when that hour may. But while I do live, let me have a country, or at least the hope of a country, and that a free country. Oh my God.
Nice.
That is so good. Whatever may be our fate, you can go ahead and fade that. Whatever, it goes on, and I love it. I mean, that right there, it could stay right there, and I would have been, yes, let's vote, yes. But whatever, he goes on to say, John Adams, but whatever may be our fate, be assured that this declaration will stand. It may cost treasure, and it may cost blood, but it will stand, and it will richly compensate for both. Through the thick gloom of the present. Now remember, again, these men knew that by this declaration, they were at war. They knew that the king would order their deaths. They knew that it could be the end of them. So with the end of their families, the end of their property, the end of it all. through the thick gloom of the present. John Adams says, I see the brightness of the future as the sun in heaven. I hate being a girl. We shall make this a glorious and immortal day. When we are in our graves, our children will honor it. They will celebrate it with thanksgiving, with festivity. Declaration. Independence Day. They will celebrate with festivity, with bonfires and illuminations. Maybe that's why we light up the fireworks, because of these words from John Adams. I don't know. Sir, before God, I believe the hour is come. My judgment approves this measure, and my whole heart is in it. All that I have, and all that I am, and all that I hope in this life, I am now ready here to stake upon it. And I leave off as I began, that live or die, survive or perish, I am for the declaration. It is my living sentiment. By the blessing of God, it shall be my dying sentiment. Independence now and independence forever. That is so good. That is, what a wordsmith. And I'm sure he said it a whole heck of a lot more passionately than I did, because his life really was at stake. Their freedom was at stake. Go watch that movie. I'm sure that speech is in there. And a lot of other wonderful speeches. So as you celebrate tomorrow, and I'm sorry for being a girl. I got if you're watching on Super Talk TV, I've just got tears streaming. I can't help it. You ask me, am I extremely proud of this country? Am I proud to be an American? 100%. And am I proud of what's been happening lately and all the division? No, of course not. Of course not. We got some problems right now. we got some issues that we need to work on. But at the core, we're free. At the core, we are American. And John Adams, who went long before us, and Thomas Jefferson, and Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Daniel Webster. I mean, the list goes on. All of these men, all of these colonists set us up for the greatest success of all, and that's freedom. Freedom. Free to be what you want to be. Free to do what you want to do within reason, as long as it doesn't prevent someone else from life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. Individual responsibility. Freedom to worship the way you want to. Freedom to speak. Free speech. Freedom to protest. Freedom not to incriminate yourself. I mean, the list is long. The freedom to bear arms. Free. Free. The freedom to light fireworks on the 4th of July at your picnic after it's done and the sun goes down. Freedom to sit in a park and read a book. I mean, I'm trying to think of the freedom to sit at the beach and burn in the sun and bake. All of that. Free. Freedom. God bless America. 6:48. I'm Pamela Furr on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. You often hear me talk about diversification in the investing process, but how do we diversify? Well, we look for things that move in dissimilar fashion historically. Some of those market areas might be really small companies or really large companies, or very growth-oriented companies or value-oriented companies. And one of the things that we find is that when we diversify between these various segments, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio because they don't move in tandem with each other historically. Now we can do that in U.S. markets, we can do that in international markets, and in emerging markets. And when we can dampen that volatility, we can help get ourselves a little bit of a better outcome as far as knowing what we might likely have in the future or how we can take income from our investment portfolio. Now we also want to add fixed income or bonds to the mix as well. Now, if we know that we need to do this, what's the best way to do it? Well, one of the things that we often teach is this concept of market efficiency. This won the Nobel Prize in economics as well. And it's the idea that if I'm investing in, let's say, small value stocks, if we look at professional managers and their ability to say, hey, should I have this stock or that one, and picking companies or areas of the market, we find that they typically get lower returns than the market does on its own. They just add expense and they can add a lot of volatility. One of the things we want to avoid is anything that can hurt your returns and increase your risk in the investing process. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
That's right. It's Party in the USA. Now, I'm going to tell some behind the scenes. I asked Chris, so what patriotic song do we have coming? And he goes, patriotic. Air quote,
patriotic.
So
yeah.
at Party in the USA, that's what we're going to do, right? Because we're free to do so.
That's right.
I just can't believe you're playing. It's Miley, isn't it?
That's Miley. Yeah.
All right, that's funny. Look at us. We're actually nodding our head, yes, to Party in the USA. Look, whatever it is that you do, be safe. Make sure if you're drinking tonight or tomorrow that you find a ride home. There are all kinds of ways, and there are all kinds of people downtown that will help you. Don't drink and drive over the next 24 hours or so. Please be careful, and don't forget the reason why we celebrate. It's because of our independence that was declared on this day, July the 4th in 1776. Yes, yes. And go watch John Adams if you get the opportunity to do that as well. Have yourself a great evening. Mark Levin, I do believe, is up next. I'll be back with you on Wednesday at 3:05 for the drive right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.